The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you on April 11th, 2023. It is NBA playoff time. I cannot wait. This is like Christmas for me, of course. You guys know, I love football. I love NFL, obviously, but you guys know, like, number one for me is NBA at all costs. And the playoff officially starts on Saturday, but we had the play-in games in today. We'll get to that in a second. Obviously, we'll do a quick preview on that. A couple of things too. Also, this is also officially the Earnest Speaking NBA Awards. Normally, I do this with our guys Zach and Chris, but due to schedules, not be able to work out together, I figured I'll just go on my own. I'll just do my own thing this year. So, what we'll do here, before we get to all that, because I want to touch on the play-in tournament, and then what I'll probably do also, because I was going to last year we predicted the play-in, and then the teams who will get in the play-in, the playoff by virtual play-in, not knowing who was in the playoffs, at least for the final two seeds, 7 and 8 seeds. What we'll do instead is I'll probably do a rep reaction podcast, probably right on Friday night after the last game, maybe early Saturday morning, and just do a quick maybe 10-15 minute podcast on this feed, and give my official NBA playoff predictions for all 8 series in the first round. But before we get to all that, I want to do something I love doing. I do the NFL stuff a lot too. I did some of the NFL after the end of the year. Do it here as well too. I want to revisit my preseason NBA over under win totals. I want to go back and see where I landed on that. Because this was a very wacky year in the NBA, very wide open, as we've been saying. And I want to go back and see where I landed on these predictions. Vegas numbers, of course, they put out before the year starts. What they predict what they see these teams could be at, and whether you go over under on that. So let's go here first. The first team here is the Atlanta Hawks. They entered the year with a 45.5 over-under number. I went under in that. I was correct on that. They went 41-41. Another, I guess, disappointing year for the Hawks. Lots of turmoil there with Trae Young. They get Nate McMillan fired and a couple of things there. Quinn Snyder's head coach now. Now you can say that Quinn Snyder's a good coach. Maybe the future's bright. A lot of things in that team they got to do. They got to figure out. There's some rumors about maybe the Hawks are considering moving Trae Young in the future. This team, actually, added Jonte Murray. He's been okay for the team for the most part, but this can't seem to get this team. This team couldn't seem to figure it out. I mean, they caught on, played better late in the year to start off slow this year, but this can't seem to figure it out. So I was right there. I didn't think it'd be 41-41 bad. But I thought they'd be at least 45-44 wins, but I was right there on the under for the Hawks. All right, next team here, the Boston Celtics. Their over number was 54.5. I went under. I was wrong on that one. They're not a 2 seed. They went 57-25 for the season. Another great year. Jason Tatum in the MVP conversation. Questions about Jaylen Brown's future there beyond this year. If he makes all NBA team, they can give him a massive extension, a max. But a lot of questions during the Celtics. And a team that came into the year, with some questions because of the Ime Udoka situation, who had a fantastic first-year head coach, took his team to the NBA Finals. But, there's some questions going into this offseason going forward in terms of the Celtics and can they get back to the Finals and, as I mentioned, Jaylen Brown's future. We'll see how that goes. But I did get that wrong. They went over their number at 54.5. They won 57 games. All right, the Brooklyn Nets. This is going to be a little bit of a weird one here. The Nets over-under number was 50.5. I went over. I was wrong. They went 45-37. Now, remember, this team entered the year with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on the roster and Ben Simmons and his issues. And by February, both guys were gone. By February, both guys were gone. Traded away. Durant traded to the Suns, Kyrie to the Mavericks. And yet this team, you got to give Ja Morant credit here. A team that I thought would fall down the standings. Maybe they get in the playing game because they baked the wins early in the year with Kyrie and Kevin and Durant to sustain maybe at least be a play-in team. they sustained enough to hold a playoff spot. Mikal Bridges played well there. It's a bright future for the Nets here, obviously. I don't know if they can sustain this. I will say Jacques Vaughn is you talk about Coach of the Year candidates. I don't know if I pick him as Coach of the Year, but he's definitely in the conversation. Because for him to not only early in the year weather the storm when they fired Steve Nash to start the year, all right? And then they fire Steve Nash. He comes in there, after all the issues with the Kyrie stuff, and he misses a couple games because due to the retweeting the video and the documentary. We haven't gone into all that. The Nets turn it on. They at one point I think they were number 2 in the East at one point, and then the Kyrie trade happens, the Durant trade happens, and we're thinking, okay, well, this team's going to fall apart. They actually sustain and maintain themselves and are a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. So kudos to Jacques Vaughn there, but I did get that wrong. I had the over. They went under that, of course. All right, the Charlotte Hornets, they entered the year at 36.5 wins, over-under. I went over on that one. I was wrong on that one. They actually had a really bad year, 27.55. Michael Jordan reportedly selling his majority stock, majority shares of the team. Lots of questions with Charlotte. A team that shows some promise. LaMelo Ball's there and all that, but again, a team that their ceiling is 40 wins probably. I mean, they won I think 42, 43 last year, but unless they get a big whale or superstar, I don't see them doing much in the future. So, all right, the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is where I got totally wrong. They were 47.5 over under. I went slightly under in that one, and I was wrong there. They actually won 51 games this year. Fantastic season. Donovan Mitchell with a fantastic year. That team is put all together. They're the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference right now. Great job by the Cavs. Okay. The Bulls, their over number was 42.5. I went under in that one. I was correct. They were actually 40 and 42. Kind of disappointing, but they're in the play-in situation, and they can probably make some noise there. They play Toronto tomorrow night. They started slow too, but they caught on late in the year. We'll see. They can be a little dangerous in the play-in situation. We'll see. All right. Here we go. The Dallas Mavericks, over our number was 48.5. I went over. I was dead wrong on that one. In fact, this team cratered. If I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to just get my screen here to get to the Mavericks. Yeah. The Mavericks cratered, went 38 and 44. This team was the 4 seed before trade for Kyrie Irving. The 4 seed. And not blaming Kyrie Irving for this one, because I don't think Kyrie Irving is the blame. They're just bad defensively. And it got worse when Kyrie got there. Not saying Kyrie was at fault here, but at the same time, this team cratered. In my opinion, all the blame goes to Mark Cuban in the front office. Because I thought they gave a lot of pieces. Many people believe that they gave a lot of pieces to get Kyrie. Now, was the Kyrie Irving trade a bad idea? I still say no, it was not a bad idea, because this is a team that went to the West Conference Finals last year. They need to find out, can Luka Doncic play with another star? What kind of star can he play with? Clearly, him and Kyrie, at least from an offensive point of view, do mix very well. In fact, their rating was still pretty high, but it's defensively is the issue. And now you wonder: does Kyrie Irving, who's now a free agent, does he extend? Do the Mavericks extend him? Do they get back to the negotiating table? Do they look at that situation? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of questions in Dallas. Rumors about maybe Luka wants to get traded out of there at the end of the year. He said he's happy in Dallas, but you never know how things play out there. Lots of questions in Dallas. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out in the offseason moving forward. All right. Next team here, the Denver Nuggets. Their overall number was 49.5. I went over on that one. They got that one. They won 53 games this year. They are the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Again, another historic year for Nikola Jokic, who's possibly MVP. We'll see. I'll let you know, guys, in this podcast where I went on that one. But definitely in the top 2 conversation with MVP. But again, this is a team that needs some playoff success, ultimately, which it comes down to. All right, the Detroit Pistons, 28.5 over under. I went under. I was right on this one. They were actually, if I'm not mistaken, the worst team in basketball this year. Yep. 17 wins. Now, I remember doing the podcast with Chris and Zach back in October. And those guys saying that this team would win more than 20 games. They'd probably be in the mid-30s. But to no fault of their own, Kay Cunningham, their leading scorer, gets hurt early in the year. That didn't help. So, in that aspect, I am right, but I'm not going to gloat about that one. Losing their best player, for injury early in the year, definitely set the table for them falling apart. So, we'll see what happens there. They have the definitely the best odds to get Victor Wembanyama. How do you pronounce that? Wembanyama. Thank you. Wembanyama. We'll see how that plays out there. All right. The Golden State Warriors overall number was 51.5 wins. I went over. I was dead wrong. They ended up winning 44 games this year. Remember for the year start, I was saying, I was complaining on that same podcast when we did over-unders, complaining the fact that, and saying that this number felt way too suspect, that this number felt very, very low. So I'm just saying this is a nut. This is the nuts. Go take the over, definitely. Vegas knows what they're doing, obviously. Obviously, a team that had a hard time winning on the road this year. Great at home, but they managed to put it all together late in the year. Played well, won 8 last 10 games, and won 3 in a row to close out the season. And are still, in my opinion, one of the favorites to go to the NBA Finals in the West. So the Warriors are still the Warriors. Klay Thompson's back. Steph Curry is still Steph. Draymond Green has still been the core of that team, and the guys, the Kumingas, the Draymond Greens, all playing well now. All playing well, and I believe this team is extremely dangerous. They also get the draw the perceived easier first round matchup against the Kings in the first round. Although I feel very uncomfortable saying that because the Kings have been fantastic this year. We'll get to them in a second. But yeah, the Warriors under this year on the Vegas numbers. I was dead wrong on that one. All right, the Houston Rockets over number was 23.5 wins. I went under. I was correct on that. They won 22 games. Just a hair under. I was right on that one. Another team that has a lot of issues. They actually not gonna renew their coach Steven Silas' contract. We saw that yesterday. So there's that. Indiana Pacers over number was 24.5. I went over on that one. They got the over. This was a team, actually, that for a while, for record, they won 35 games this year. This was a team that early in the year were actually in the top 6. And I remember saying back in December that this is one of my favorite league pass teams in the league. Tyrese Halliburton was starting to really put it all together. This Pacers team was starting to look really good. And then once he gets hurt, this team is kind of cratered after that. But it's a team to look out for next year in the East, I think, with Halliburton being their guy. They got some good pieces there they can build around. We'll see how the Pacers do going forward. All right, the L.A. Clippers over number was 52.5. I went over foolishly on there, thinking that Kawhi Leonard could play a whole year, or at least a good chunk of the year. Dead wrong about that one. They won 44 games. No Paul George entering the playoffs. Reports are that Paul George will likely be with the team at the middle to tail end of the series against Phoenix. It's a bad sign because they're playing Phoenix and Kevin Durant and those guys. We'll see how that plays out there. But the Clippers, 5 seed in the Western Conference, they did their job, held it all together. Kawhi's played better late in the year. End of the year pretty well. But, tough matchup against the Suns in the first round. You need all hands in. I will say, for the Clippers' defense, they are probably the deepest team in the league. So, if anything, they have enough horses to throw at the Suns and see how that becomes a good series. This is definitely going to be one of the best series in the first round, I will say. And if Paul George gets back in time, this is going to even be better. The LA Lakers over number was 45.5. I went over on that one. I was wrong. They did win 43 games. Now, you consider the way they started the year, that's a miracle in itself. They were one of the worst teams in the West for a good half of the year. Trade out Russell Westbrook. Get some pieces back for him. Vanderbilt to the world and all those guys. And put all together, AD, having a fantastic second half of the year. LeBron gets hurt, comes back. He's been playing great. Obviously, a very dangerous team going forward. Obviously, couldn't get to 45.5, but you consider the way they played at the start of the year, getting to 43 wins is actually a miracle. All right. The team they may be playing in the first round of the playoffs if they win their play-in game tonight. Memphis Grizzlies over-under was 48.5. I went over on that one. I was correct on that one. They won 51 games. kind of feel like this team's a little bit on the radar now, a little bit. And now, obviously, not having Stevie Adams is not going to help. Having a big guy there, big muscle guy in the interior. But Memphis, I feel like, is one of those teams now. We talk about the Suns, the Clippers, the Warriors, Lakers, all those teams in the West. Memphis kind of like all of a sudden kind of on the radar. I don't know. There's a team with a lot of bravado. I just feel like teams look over this team. People looking over this team, and I think if they beat the Lakers in the first round, soon they play the Lakers in the first round, that maybe they'll get more attention back onto them once again. Because not a lot of people think that this team can make it far in the playoffs, especially given the matchups that are going to probably occur in the playoffs. But I like this Memphis team going forward. I really do. All right, my team, the Miami Heat, overall number was 48.5. I went under in this one. I was unfortunately correct on this. They won 44 games. A letdown year for the Heat team that wasn't really consistent this year. Couldn't find a groove, really. They win a couple games here and there. You think that, all right, this team's figuring it out. And then they fall apart. Then they lose a couple games here. And they had a chance to get the 5 seed a couple weeks ago. Then that string of losing to the Raptors, Knicks, and Nets in the same week did them in, honestly. I will say for the record, though, the Heat, they are that team now that, assuming they win their game tonight against Atlanta, playing game, that, not saying they'll beat the Bucks or the Celtics or the Sixers are better than them, but they're that team now where you want to play them that early because even if you beat the Heat, that's going 6-7 games because this is who they are. They do rise in competition to a higher level in the postseason, of course. So, just saying that. But they got to take care of business first night, play Atlanta tonight, and once they take care of that situation, then Celtics most likely will be the first round matchup. But we'll see. All right, the Milwaukee Bucks, over number was 52.5 wins. I went over in that one. I crushed that one. They won 58 games. They were the best team in the league this season. Giannis, of course, in the conversation for MVP. How about Drew Holiday getting his flowers finally this year? Probably the most underrated player in basketball. This team, probably my favorites to win the East. Probably my favorites also win the title. Excuse me. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Obviously, the Bucks. Chris Middleton's coming to the playoffs a little nicked up. They need him. Obviously, remember what happened last year? This team lost second round to the Celtics because of no Middleton. If Middleton's not healthy for this playoffs, things can change quickly in the Eastern Conference. But great year for the Bucks, of course. All right, the Minnesota Timberwolves over number was 48.5 wins. I went under in that one. I was right about that. They won 42 games this year. Now, granted, they were without Karl-Anthony Towns for a chunk for the majority of the season, to be honest with you. And I already said on record that, to me, this is now Anthony Edwards' team now. Especially Anthony Edwards' team. But the Timberwolves are also a very dumb team because, you saw what happened on Sunday with the fighting between Rudy Gobert, I gave up 5 picks to get this guy with Kyle Anderson. He's going to miss tonight's game against the Lakers because of that fight. Then McDaniels, the guy, was it Jay McDaniels, fractured his hand while leaving the court. I think he was in foul trouble. He leaves the court. He punches the wall, fractures his hand. He's obviously the best defender on the team, and he won't be able to go. Hold on, get some tea real quick. Hold on a second. Yeah, fractured his hand. Very dumb team. Probably gonna lose tonight to LA. Probably will have to face the winner of the Pelicans Thunder series, playing game, should I say? But yeah, a team that had a lot of hope coming to the year, and even when they got Towns back, they were starting to play better, and then, they're the Timberwolves for a reason. That's why. All right. New Orleans Pelicans, over number was 44.5. I went under. I was right on that one. They won 42 games. Now, granted, this team was actually either 1 or 2 in the Western Conference at one point this year in early December. And then Zion Williamson gets hurt. And the wheels fall off. Now, granted, they were able to pull together late in the year. They played well. They won 2 of the last 10 games to get to the play-in. Brandon Ingram's having a fantastic year. It's frustrating because the Pelicans might be a top 6 team if Zion's healthy. You saw how great they were early in the year. Very tough team to figure out. But, again, very dangerous team to play in, too. Remember, last year, they made the playoffs last year without Zion, for the record. And they won both of the playing games to get there. All right, the New York Knicks. Here we go. 39.5 wins was the over-under coming to the year. I went under that one. I was dead wrong. This Knicks team won 40. What's the number here? 47 games. Wow. That Jalen Brunson trade, easily best trade of the year. Easily best trade of the year. People say, "Oh, what about Kevin Durant?" No. I'm talking about before the season started. Changing the culture there. The Knicks, a 5 seed. I mean, this team, I can't even say overachieved. This team just figured it out. That Knicks Cavs series should be a fun one. Can't wait for that one to start. So, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, another team that I got dead wrong. I was right on this one. I had the over on this one, but they well overachieved on this one. Their number was 23.5. Went over. They won 40 games, 42. SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. What a season for him this year. What a season. This team well overachieved my station scores. Should be a fun game between them and the Pelicans on Wednesday. What a season for the Thunder, and a bright future, of course, coming up for this team. Team to watch in the future. Another team to watch in the future is the Orlando Magic, who number was 26.5 coming to the year. I went under in that one. I was wrong also, too. This team actually won 34 games. How about this, though, for the Magic? Every time I watch them play, very frisky team. They beat Boston a couple times this year, beat a couple really good teams this year, but then they lose to the bad ones. Lots of talent on that team, though. Lots of talent there. Paulo Banchero, rookie of the year candidate. We'll see if I picked him there in a second. A bright future for this team. I'm a team that I actually enjoyed watching throughout the year. Always in games. Always randomly beating good teams. Clippers here, Heat here, the Bucks here, I think. But they beat Boston a couple times. Just a very frisky team this year they were. We'll see their future, how that goes, but they have a pretty bright future here for this team. All right. We have the Philadelphia 76ers, whose over number was 50.5. I went over. They got that one. They're the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. They won 54 games. Joel Embiid, probably MVP this year. We'll see. But again, it's about James Harden and that core. James Harden could technically leave the team at the end of the year. We'll see. So they have questions too to answer moving forward. But we'll see how it plays out for the Sixers going forward. All right, Phoenix Suns over number was 51.5. I went over. I was wrong on that one. This team won 45 games. They caught on late in the year once Kevin Durant was traded there. So again, that record is not really going to be representative of who they really are. Most people believe they're the favorites to win the Western Conference at least, possibly the NBA title. We'll see. I thought this would be the year they fall off, but with Kevin Durant being there now, they got a new lease on life now. We'll see how the playoffs go. The Portland Trail Blazers over number was 39.5. I went over. I was way off on that one. They went under in that one. In fact, they cratered in the year. They won 33 games. They started the year off really good and then fell apart. How much longer is Damian Lillard going to be there? How much longer is he going to put up with that team? He is loyal. He says that he wants to be there in his career there, but I don't see this team able to make big moves to, compete in the Western Conference. That's the problem. Get another whale, another major, piece, and Lillard's not getting older, not getting younger rather. He's, 32, 33. Not saying he's old, but he's getting up there now, so lots of questions there in Portland. Here we go. The Sacramento Kings over numbers 33.5. I went under this one. I don't know what I was thinking about. The Kings well overachieved this year. 48 wins, 3 seed Western Conference. Mike Brown's first year as coach, fantastic job. He's easily coach of the year in my opinion. De'Aaron Fox, what a year for him. Sabonis. Those guys, this team was fun to watch all year long. Kind of played a little weird end of the year. Lost 3 in a row to end the season. Although by then they already knew what their season was going to be pretty much. But lots of people are just a lot of people are just disrespecting this team really in terms of what they can do in the playoffs. Because a lot of people are saying, well, if the sweet spot's a 6 seed, if you play Kings in the first round. I don't know, man. This team looks scary. Now, I will say that the thing about the Kings that if it's a negative, that their offense was awesome this year. Their offense was fantastic. What scares with the Kings to have more confidence in them to go further in the playoffs is their defense. Can their defense even play average? Because they were a bottom 5 defense this year in the league. And that's for a 3 seed and for a team that's won 48 games. That's a little bit of a disappointment, I guess. But, again, this was a great story this year. Probably the story of the year, really, to be honest with you. The Kings, 48 wins, back to the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. Wow. All right, we have the San Antonio Spurs, whose over-under number was 22.5. I went over on that one. I was wrong. I missed that by a half point. They won 22 games. So, I got that one wrong. Greg Popovich's team be that bad. It's weird to me. Really weird. Toronto Raptors, over number was 45.5. I went under. I was right on that one. They won 41 games. They played better than the year though. They started the year really slow, came back and got to the play-in, and we'll see what happens there. I mean, they could be another team that can. I think that Bulls Raptors game on tomorrow night is a really underrated game. To be honest with you, that's gonna be a really really good game. I think. I don't know who I'm picking that one. To be honest with you. All right, 2 more teams here. The Utah Jazz over number was 25.5 wins. I was dead wrong on this one. I went under. This team way massively overachieved. They were actually in the playoff conversation for a little while, but they won 37 games this year. End of the year, no, pretty bad. Lost 8 and last 10 games. But we did consider this team, what they were doing, when we were to go bigger, moving Donovan Mitchell and gutting the roster. The assumption was this team was going to be a bottom 2 or 3 team in the league. And no, they're not even close to that. So, kudos to Danny Ainge, those guys. Lauri Markkanen, great year for him. This team has a bright future. We'll say that. And finally, the Washington Wizards. The over number this year was 35.5. I went over. I was wrong by half point. They won 35 games this year. Another team like the Hornets that's stuck in. They got a star in Bradley Beal. They got Kristaps Porzingis. But another team that's stuck in a place where their ceiling is probably 40 wins, maybe 41 wins. They're not terrible, but they're not. But for them to be great, they need another whale. So they're stuck in the NBA purgatory, where it's like you're not bad enough to get a high draft pick, but you're not good enough to compete for titles. So those are my over/under predictions. Now in hindsight, like I said, it was a really challenging year in terms of wacky year in general. Just really fun year. A lot of things I thought would go one way, went the other way, and vice versa. So, all right. So now here we go. The all NBA teams. Now, typically, and the league normally does this too. The league normally, when they do all NBA teams, it's a position thing. You have three teams. You have 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center per team. First team, second team, and third team. Now, in recent years, the league has actually allowed players that might play guard and forward to play, to get into the, let's say you have a guard, for example, but there's a lot of guards that take up the spaces, throw them as a forward. I'm now arguing for years when I've done this, I've always stuck to the center, forwards, guard. I'm done with that now. I actually, when I initially did this, I had 2 separate lists. I had the list with with position-specific players, and then I had one with position lists. And honestly, I think I'm going to get more progressive on this one. I think the way the league should go now is positionless. Just pick the 15 best players in the league. Okay? If 2 centers are in your top 5 at first team and deserving of first team accolades, they should be there. I have that here in my first team. My first team here, I have Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum. This one, I almost put him lower, but I decided to leave him in the first team. I put Luka Doncic in my first team. Because part of me thinks that win-losses should matter. And given the fact that the Mavericks cratered in the year, not saying it's Luka's fault, but again, you are their star. So by default, you get some blame with that. But I decided to leave it alone. He was still a top 5 player in the league this year. Okay? So I have Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, and Luka Doncic as my first team. My second team, I have pretty much mostly guards here. I have Donovan Mitchell, John Morant, Steph Curry, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and LeBron James. LeBron was tough because LeBron missed a chunk games this year. But we know when LeBron played this year, he was out of this world, top 5 player in the league. Okay? And the threshold, I know next year they're going to start doing this where, you have to win 65 games to even qualify for this. This year I said, you know what, for this year only, I'll do 55 games as my qualifier. And all these players met the criteria for me personally. So I put LeBron on my second team. So I have Don Mitchell, John Morant, Steph Curry, SGA, which is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who you guys don't watch OKC games, which you probably should be doing because they're a fantastic team to watch, fun to watch. And LeBron James as my second team. My third team. Here's my third team. I got Jaylen Brown, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Davis, Domantas Sabonis. And this is the one I had a hard time with because I had a couple players here I was considering. I even had James Harden was considering 1.2, who led leading assists this year. But I went Jalen Brunson in New York. I actually slept on this. When I went to bed last night, I had James Harden as my final third team selection. I woke up this morning. I thought about it again. I'm like, you know what? Jalen Brunson, for what he did in New York, taking a team that was, 35 wins last year? I don't know how many wins on last year. He goes to New York, gets a semi-big contract, is criticized to the hilt for that contract because everybody thought that what he did in Dallas what we did in Dallas last year was an anomaly, was a fluky, whatever you call that. And all he does is goes to New York, change the culture. They win 47 games, and at the same point, they lose in Dallas, and Dallas goes from making the Western Conference Finals last year to missing the playoffs all entirely. That's why Jalen Brunson will be my third team. So again, third team: Jaylen Brown, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Davis, who's had a fantastic year when he's healthy, Domantas Sabonis, and Jalen Brunson is my third team. All right. Let's get to regular season awards here. Rookie of the Year, I have Paulo Banchero, Orlando. Most improved player, I have Lauri Markkanen in Utah. Great year for Lauri this year, by the way. Executive of the Year, give me Kobe Altman in Cleveland. I mean, the Mitchell trade changed everything for the Cavaliers. Coach of the Year, this is easy. Mike Brown, the Kings, the 3 seed. First time in the playoffs in 17 years. Not even as a play-in team. Not even as a number 6. Number 3 in the West. In a very competitive Western Conference at that. Although I will say, though he won't win it, obviously, Jacques Vaughn should get some consideration for Coach of the Year, especially too. Just saying. Defense Player of the Year. This was a little tough, but I went Jaren Jackson Jr. in Memphis. Sixth Man of the Year, Malcolm Brogdon in Boston. The piece I thought they needed to get before the year started, and they did that. And he was fantastic off the bench for this team. And, of course, you guys want to know my MVP. My MVP, it could have gone either way. I had, obviously, you think about Giannis, you think about Jokic. There's some chatter for Tatum, some chatter for, Mitchell in Cleveland. I went Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has surged, won the scoring title this year. Embiid, great year. But, ultimately, we'll judge this guy by the playoffs. I thought Jokic sort of, not cratered, but it's the wrong word to use here. But I think Jokic sort of tailed off toward the end of the year. Not saying he wasn't great, but I thought Jokic kind of just maybe they didn't prioritize the MVP, because one could argue that he deserves it because he's won back-to-back the last couple of years. He was going for his third straight this year. We'll see how that plays out. Obviously, I mean, this is my personal awards. But Embiid was just dominant. And not only that, I think where I separated the two was that the one meeting they had this year, Embiid dominated Jokic in that game. And I feel like, you can go either way. If you go Jokic, I'm not going to be mad at you either, because I think it's a tight race. Giannis, obviously, too. But I also thought that Giannis got hurt by Drew Holiday playing great. The team didn't create without Giannis. Obviously, Milwaukee's not Milwaukee without Giannis. But I think Giannis missed 16 games this year, and maybe 17. And I think this team went 10-6, 10-7 without him. They actually had a winning record without Giannis this year. So that kind of buys into they can sustain somewhat, hold together without Giannis. Whereas the Sixers without Embiid isn't. Even with James Harden, they're not good. That's simple. So that's my NBA individual awards. All right, before we get going, my play-in predictions. Okay, tonight we have the Heat and the Hawks. I'm going Miami tonight to win. They'll get the 7 seed. The Hawks will now play the winner of the Raptors and Bulls tomorrow night. And there I will pick. Well, here's what I'll do. Let me pick tonight's games first. So the Hawks will have to wait now to play another game to get in the playoffs for the 8th seed. So I have Heat Celtics in the first round. Lakers, T-Wolves. This is easy. The Lakers, obviously, with T-Wolves losing Gobert to suspension, and of course McDaniels for the injury. Lakers will get the 7th seed. They'll face Memphis in the first round. All right. Tomorrow night, I have the Bulls and the Raptors. This is actually tougher than I realize. You know what? I'm gonna go the upset here. I'm gonna go Chicago here. I'm gonna go Chicago. Pick of the Bulls to get the win the first playing game. Okay, they'll face Atlanta in the next round, and then for the Western Conference side, the Pelicans and the Thunder game, I'm going New Orleans in that one. They'll now face the loser of which is the Timberwolves. So go to the East now. I'll have the Hawks and the Bulls in the East. I'll be honest with you. I'm picking the Bulls here. I think the Bulls get the 8th seed. I think the Bulls will win the next 2 games. I don't trust the Hawks. So the Bulls will win the next 2 playing games. They'll face the Bucks in the first round, like last year. And there's that. And then for the Western Conference, the second playing game, should I say, Timberwolves and Pelicans, like last year. No, not last year. I'm sorry, they played last year. I apologize. I'm gonna go Pelicans. I just trust them more. They're not dumb. They're not a dumb team. Give me Pelicans win that game, even if it's on the road. So I basically have the Heat as the 7th seed playing Boston, and I have the Bulls as the 8th seed facing the Bucks, and then I have the Lakers 7th seed facing the Grizzlies, and I have the Pelicans as the 8th seed facing the Denver Nuggets. So there's that. Anyway, that's today's podcast. We'll be back in a couple days, where once we get the official play-in tournament, once it's over, once we get the official teams, where they're going, who they're playing, we know the official 1 through 8. I'll do a quick 10-15 minute podcast predicting who will win the first round of the playoffs. So again, Earnest Christian here. I'm on Twitter, each7. Check out the YouTube page at youtube.com/EarnestChristian at Earnest Christian. We've got clips there of the show. We'll have clips from this episode today on there as well too. So we will talk soon. God bless y'all, and enjoy the play-in. Later. Thank you.